What's up everyone? Welcome back to my 12 Days of Drawmas series. Today I have tried to mix it up and I'm actually going to be drawing on some toned grey paper here. Now I didn't film the inking stage and that's because this paper is pretty dark, so when you use the light box it's really hard to see the lines underneath. And you couldn't really see a lot in the footage, so I decided not to really film that part. So today on this illustration I'm going to be using my Copic Markers, but also my Prismacolor Premier pencils. Now I decided to use my pencils as well, because this paper is a bit of a mid-tone, so if I only used my markers, which are a transparent medium by the way, the colours would feel a little bit dull, and this is mainly because the grey in the background sort of desaturates all the colours a little bit, and it also makes it all a bit dark. You can't really get lighter highlights that are lighter than the paper because the paper is kind of the lightest part of the illustration when you use a transparent medium. But pencils are a bit of an opaque-ish medium, so I really wanted to use them to sort of get a little bit more saturation as well as highlights, and I think it worked pretty well. Now the subject of today is I decided to draw some Christmas bells with a bit of holly and a bit of a ribbon as well on it. And I decided to do this because this is basically a very typical Christmas illustration, and I really wanted to get all of the Christmas stereotype kind of illustrations which are like typical over and done with. And then I'll get to sort of more interesting and different stuff later. So yeah, drawing these Christmas bells was actually really fun because I didn't really have to worry much about anatomy except on the plant a little bit. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun shading the bells and trying to get a sort of slightly metallic texture as well. And yeah, I think it was pretty fun to do. I used a bit of sand, golden yellow, honey, cadmium yellow for the bells, and I used a bit of pine tree green and a bit of Prussian blue for the holly, as well as some cadmium red and cardinal for the and a little bit of crimson as well for the ribbons. And for the berries on the holly, I used light rouge, I believe. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun to do. I haven't really drawn an illustration depicting Christmas bells and holly. Well, I do a little bit, but not as detailed as this. So it was a lot of fun to try out. Once I got all of those colours down, I decided to shade the bells a little bit more with a darker brown. And yeah, here is the final piece before I used pencils. And you can see it does look pretty nice, but the tones are all pretty similar. So I really wanted to push the contrast a little bit more and get some darker shadows and more highlights. So before I did that, I actually decided to add a little bit of shadow onto the bells, and this worked very well because the paper was a tone grey. So I used a bit of cool grey, just a little bit of shadow, and that worked out really nicely because it fit in pretty well with the background. And now for the fun part with the pencils. You can really tell once I add that yellow, it just gives it a little bit more of a punch kind of to it. If you can see what I mean, like, I don't know, it just adds a bit more saturation and it really makes it shine, especially on the highlights I find. And I also used a bit of lighter yellow and a bit of white for some really glossy, shiny highlights on the bells as well. And that was a lot of fun because I really wanted to make them look metallic, and it was working pretty well. And then I used a bit of browns as well for the shadows on the bell. And then I went into the holly, and I used a bit of light green and a bit of white here and there, just to try and get the holly to have a bit of a shine as well. And I don't know, when I add the lighter colors over the darker desaturated kind of colors, it kind of just gives the artwork a bit more life to it, and it just makes it so much more interesting looking, I believe. When you're using like tone tan and a bit of Copic, it helps so much to have a bit of an opaque medium to use over the top, because it just kind of, I don't know, it just gives it a whole new life to it, I feel. And yeah, this artwork was just a lot of fun to just like layer, I don't know, just layering the pencils over the Copics. It was just a lot of fun to do. It does look like a bit of a simple illustration, but it was a lot of, I don't know, it's just really fun to do. And I think having fun with art is like the most important part. So I think this drawing was a bit of a success. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I really appreciate all your support. It's so nice to read the comments below, and I don't know, just like converse with you guys, and you know, make friends. And like, that's the main thing I do. Like, that's the whole reason I do this on YouTube, just to meet you guys and show off my art, and you know, learn more about you guys and talk in the comments. It's so much fun to get to know you all. So I just want to thank you all so much for supporting me and giving me that encouragement that I need to keep making more art. But anyways, this video is starting to end, so I will say thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I hope you have a lovely Christmas, and I will see you tomorrow for my next 12 days of Drawmas video. Bye everyone!